Welcome to the fourth episode of the Economy and State Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Sievers.
And I'm Sam Brandhoover.
Today we're going to be talking about the market response to the hypothetical market response to a health crisis or pandemic, or like the current crisis of the coronavirus. It's more of like a hypothetical, what would happen in a market society where there's no government intervention.
And I expect that we'll also be going over the government response so far and planned government responses that are possibly could go through Congress.
So let's start with something we talked about earlier with the airlines. Sam, you mentioned it. I think you might want to start by talking about that.
Right. So the one thing that the government does that maybe generally we wouldn't think a market would also do is that the government stops flights, and which is important, I would say, to stop the spread of coronavirus. But general question would be, would that happen without market interference, right?
Yeah.
And I think that generally speaking, it would, right? The discipline of repeated dealings that we've talked about, it's that...
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know what that is, discipline of repeated dealings is essentially, say with the case of restaurants, say if I go to a restaurant and I order, a steak, and it comes out and it's, like, not a steak.
Yeah.
And so I obviously, if I ever want a steak again, I'm not going to go to that restaurant for a steak. I'm going to go somewhere else that is confirmed to have steaks, and
Right.
other people will learn from that, and sooner or later, the business that was serving so-called steaks will just go out of business. Like they don't sell what they say they're selling, and people will just stop patronizing them.
Right. And in a perfect market economy with no government, discipline of repeated dealings would largely, in part, constitute most of what like a judicial system would be.
Yeah.
But anyways, what was I talking about? Right. So in an economy where the government doesn't respond, we'll see that, if I go to Delta Airlines and I get coronavirus from a flight, or they bring coronavirus to America, guess who no longer is ever going to take Delta Airlines ever again?
You.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you as well. So
yeah, I don't want to get a deadly disease when I go on an airline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you would actually see, that if the government didn't respond, that airlines would probably restrict flights in itself. And I think you said as well that they would probably increase prices too.
Oh, yeah, and that's another thing. It's not necessarily tied to the discipline of repeated dealings, but currently there's like restrictions on free travel between states and different, states as in countries, like in Europe to America and UK to America and all that. But under a free market system, like different fares would have different prices attached to them. So essentially, say a pandemic hits Europe and everyone's scrambling, oh crap, I need to get out of here. Everybody in Europe who's healthy has an incentive to leave. People who are unhealthy don't really have much of an incentive to leave. So the people who are healthy are going to flood to the airliners and pay a high price, because the increased demand will increase the price of the airline ticket out of Europe, or out of just the country they're in. And the higher price will disincentivize people who are sick from leaving the country even further than they were already disincentivized. So it will help like the healthy people get out of the country, and it will kind of like isolate those who are sick. Like it will like the free market will distribute people across the world's surface wherever they are most efficient at. And really, if you're around tons of sick people and run the risk of getting like an infectious disease that will kill you, you're really not where you're most efficient at.
And I'm also thinking, you just described essentially what we saw last week when Trump announced the travel bans and such.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking past that, after the travel bans after people have had time to react to that, right? Obviously, demand for flights is going to decrease a lot, and that's going to result in lower prices and such, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so then the question to me becomes, well, listen, I have coronavirus. However, it only costs me $20 to fly to Japan right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fly to Japan then, and that will spread coronavirus. Now, here's what I'm going to posit, though.
Yeah.
Imagine demand is really low for coronavirus, or because of coronavirus. Nobody wants to get sick flying on a plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to get sick flying to somewhere where there is coronavirus.
Yeah.
Now, instead of keeping tickets really low because demand is so low, or ticket prices, I'm sorry, wouldn't airlines just spend more money on sanitation and different ways of maintaining, like, healthy passengers and such? I mean, it would cost them more money,
Yeah.
but then it would raise the ticket prices, but then it would also raise demand for those ticket prices. But that can't happen right now because the government blocks all flights.
Certainly, it would definitely reassure consumers. But I mean, if there's no reason to reassure them, if they just completely ban travel between countries, then you're putting the airlines in a tough position. You're
in a
putting
position where their tickets are just cheap and you can just fly anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's no. Yeah, exactly.
Unless there's like a travel restriction put in place. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
But back yeah, that's a good point. But back to what I was saying earlier, to expand further on that about like the healthy people who live in our country. At the beginning of the pandemic, the people who are in countries that aren't infected, they would not be incentivized to go to those countries, mainly because even though the ticket would be cheap to go there, because the demand to go to like a country where tons of infected people are running around is low. The fare to come back would be insanely high because there's so many people scrambling to get out of those countries.
And we're also, I mean, that's even assuming that an airline like Delta Airlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might behoove them to just cancel all flights to.
Yeah.
I mean, say Morocco is the world center for coronavirus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could fly there, and it'd be really cheap to fly there. However, it might. I hate using this word so much because it sounds stupid, but it might behoove them to just cancel flights entirely, so it's just to reassure passengers going to other flights to other places in the world. And in that way, they would be restricting any possibility of coronavirus completely.
Yeah.
And I would even say that's more likely. It's easier to do, and it probably increases profit margins for them even more so. Because it's not, you're not just making money off of that. I mean, that one Moroccan flight, you're making money off of more money from for every other possible destination.
Yeah. It just depends on how much value they put on the profit motive and the profits they could receive from people leaving infectious countries.
Well, generally speaking, though, and not just for airlines, but I would say any company, so it's in order for a consumer to purchase anything from any product or service, they have to be alive and not sick.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it would behoove any company. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm sure it would be in the best interest of any company to ensure that, consumers don't get sick. Not even for the discipline of repeated dealings, but just so that they have consumers. I mean,
yeah, like, an airline can't exist if people are all dead.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think we covered a lot with the airlines, but I think there's another element to this that we haven't touched on yet, and that's with laborers and employers.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of people right now are worried about they going on sick leave or not being paid, and employers are worried about staying open and spreading the virus. So when a lot of people, I think, when this is brought up, they instantly conjure up images in their head of the evil employer forcing their employees to come to work.
Yeah, you see on social media posts right now.
Yeah.
It's like people that I know that don't even know these people. They just share the crap out of these things that say, out of these posts that say, my boss is a terrible person. They're making me work. That isn't true.
Yeah.
They're not making you work. Where is the gun? Where is the gun to your head? It's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and plus, most people are probably healthy. And the vast majority of people who are retired are older people who can probably afford to stay in their houses. And that doesn't mean there aren't older people who are working right now. I know my grandfather had to close down his barber shop because he's older. He's at higher risk for corona, and that's something they valued in their subjectively. That's something they determined to do and thought that the costs definitely outweighed the benefits of staying open, and that's wise. I mean, the same thing with all employers. Most employers will probably close, voluntarily or not.
And the ones that don't voluntarily close, I'm assuming if a business requires labor of any kind, you're not going to be able to maintain being open if, because obviously, I mean, the common misconception is that, labor has the labor, which is basically you and I, right? We don't have any say in like anything that goes on. Well, you do have a say, because guess what? The most important part of most businesses are it's labor, right? So if I'm not there, I can tell you right now, you and I don't live in like a very infected area, but I mean, back home where I live, there's a few reported cases just in my hometown, right?
Yeah.
I would not work if I worked right at that time, and they made me work with with money or something.
Yeah.
I'd say I don't want to work right now, and I'm not going to come to work.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's other people that are going to be like that too. There might be some individuals that need money so much that they might still work, and guess what? They take that risk, and if a business can stay open with labor like that, then good for them.
Yeah,
everyone benefits.
And those are two costs. Like the cost of of staying open, that's high. Then the cost of like having to deal with like laborers who don't want to show up to work, that's also pretty high. But then there's the cost of most people not wanting to go outside,
exactly,
and therefore your business will go down too. So there's lots of stuff going against the employers, and there's lots of costs going against the employees.
But it's a stupid. I mean, actually, I don't think the government has forced anything to shut down, right?
Yeah, well, at least in PA, there had PA.
Yeah, I know New York has.
Yeah, PA released a list of non-essential and essential. They released a list of essential places of work, which I mean, it's harder to list all the. No, essential. And they said, okay, we're telling you should close, but we're not enforcing it. So yeah, there's people who...
Now, of course, a government entity saying that you should close and not telling you specifically, but telling the entire public that you are a danger and no one should go near you, that's probably enough in itself. That's essentially forcing you to shut down anyways. I mean... Yeah. I'm not gonna... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, so I think... Like we covered I think we've covered a substantial points on the labor and employees, laborers and the employers. But then there's also like some different policies that the government has been debating and actually passed. Stuff like I don't know if this was passed yet, but the $1,000 aid.
It hasn't passed yet.
No, not yet. So essentially, Trump administration is toying around with the idea of sending out two $1,000 checks. I don't know when they would be or how it would be implemented, but
or how it's funded.
Yeah. But they've been certainly toying around with that idea, and a lot of people have been supporting this mainly because I've heard stuff like, we need to get money flowing around the economy again. But I mean, it's kind of hard to say that when, first of all, the stores are all cleaned out. People aren't working, producing things to sell, and many businesses are closed.
Even businesses that you assume that don't even require labor, like Amazon, stopped shipments.
Yeah.
That's not even...
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and there's shortages on water and toilet paper. Obviously, the two things that people are looking for now. Yeah. But so it's just weird how people would support that, and plus it's a complete redistribution of wealth, essentially.
And I'll tell you what, this is at least my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I believe that if this pandemic really were as terrible as the government's response would say it is, the government would almost have to, force laborers to make food. It would. Yeah. Because I mean, if the pandemic really were so dangerous that anyone could die, anyone could get infected by going outside, nobody would be making any food. Nobody would be selling any food. Nobody, what I mean? So if it were really that bad, the government would be forcing companies to be working, right? And but instead, the government is forcing companies to shut down.
Yeah.
And by doing so, I think that in itself just shows that this isn't as big of a deal as anyone's making it out to be.
Yeah. And I mean, we also know as, intro-level econ classes, one of the determinants of demand is people's incomes.
Yeah.
So, the $1,000 would certainly increase people's demand, plus the fact that, that the closing of businesses and all that would certainly shift the population of like suppliers and sellers to
And I'll
the
tell you what,
left. And
what we saw in 2008, remember they did the same thing in 2008 during the recession. They gave everyone like $500 or something, right? We saw, I mean, during the recession that most of the money that we gave out, and there's data on this too, most of the money that the federal government gave out was just put in savings accounts and not used, right?
Yeah.
And that was at a time when businesses were open. I could walk down the street and go to Half Price Bookstore and, buy whatever I wanted, right?
Yeah.
But this is a time where everything is shut down. I was lucky to go to the gas station. I was lucky to go to Sheetz today. That's my favorite restaurant. And
Mine too.
Yeah. So, I actually was surprised that was open.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you're telling me that during a time when businesses are open, people still don't spend money, and now at a time where businesses aren't open, they're going to spend more money because they're giving out more money right now than they were during the recession.
Yeah, it's this is a little off topic from what you were saying, but I think it's also important to note of how like weird and cronyous this kind of is. Like the closing of businesses, like non-essential businesses. Like, yeah, sure, they close a bookstore, but guess who they're allowing to stay open? Walmart. And what does Walmart sell? They sell books, not a lot, but I mean, they sell books. They close like say toy stores. Guess who else sells toys? Walmart. But guess who's non-essential and guess who's essential? I mean, it's just like shifting. Like, I mean, if you really wanted to go out and buy a video game, you can't go to GameStop. GameStop would be closed, so everyone would be going to Walmart.
Yeah. If anything, though, isn't it more of wouldn't it be safer in a way to disperse the crowd from like one location to like 14 locations? You know, and not only that, I mean. I'm not going to be one to advocate for much government interference at all, but I mean, couldn't you just set like a standard? I mean, what makes Walmart safer? What? Seriously?
Nothing.
Nothing makes Walmart safer. Maybe
if anything, you can fit more people in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, not that the government is listening to us right now, but what I want them to do? I want them to tell me what makes Walmart more special, and I want them to make a regulation that says that any business that matches this can stay open. Because I guarantee you there's nothing that Walmart does that that the bookstore down the road can't do as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is it? I have to wash the windows? Okay. I have to wash frequently touched locations? Sure, everyone does that.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting of how like cronyist policies just like, they get into they use every excuse imaginable to pass these things, whether it's for good intentions or bad intentions or not. But there's also something else I wanted to talk about, which was very interesting, and I can't really see it ever really having a positive effect, even though someone might think it will on the onset. Curfews. Some states have been putting in curfews, they've been enacting curfews. So
I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, I think New York put in a curfew.
Oh, that makes sense.
Instituted a curfew. Yeah,
it would be New York.
But I think it's funny because you're essentially saying, okay, before the curfew is enacted, you have all day to do whatever you want to do. Like, all 24-hour period. Not that you'd be out like at 2 a.m., but you have all day. Okay? So now you have less time to do what you want to do. So now you have more time to interact, less time to do everything you need to do. So you're rushing, you're trying to cram in everything you're trying to do in one day, and you're causing more people to be around each other.
Well, I mean, you can see that the idea behind it is you should stay in quarantine, so don't go. I mean, but obviously,
people are just going to organize their activity around those hours and be in close quarters with more people.
Yeah, the demand for leaving your house and obtaining supplies that allow you to live is relatively inelastic. So as long as you leave, a 20-minute period in the entire day for someone to go out and buy groceries. People are going to do it. Yeah. You're not going to block anybody.
Yeah, so say imagine you had 1 hour. Everyone could go outside and get what they need to live.
Now, and in that situation, let's say maybe there's an 85-year-old woman who, Golden Girls is on during that hour. Yeah. She's like, I have bananas. I'll last another day. So she doesn't go outside, right? But what about the other 95% of the population who doesn't really have any relevant alternative that is, would give them more, profit from it. So, or profit as in, like, they gain from doing that action. So, so 95% of the time, even if you leave only an hour for people to leave, they're all going to go. 95%.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I mean, like, imagine, like, if you're cramming 8 hours of activity into 8 hours of shopping, like when all that time people have time to shop, and it takes like 20 minutes to shop, and you say, okay, now we're going to take it down to an hour or 20 minutes, or like keep getting it, making it more extreme, and it'll show you the consequences of that policy.
Right. And you know what I'm not going to do? If I have to cram 8 hours of activities into 20 minutes or an hour, I'm not going to worry about maintaining proximity, maintaining a social distance, because if I only have like 20 minutes to go to Walmart when normally I would spend, an hour here, an hour there, I'm not going to worry about, I mean, there's going to be stampedes. It's going to be Black Friday every day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Black Friday with maintaining 6 feet from every other person?
No.
Hell no.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Never.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous policy. And plus, we went over this in microeconomics, and what we talked about was curfews actually lead to more crime. I think it was, I don't know, I think it was Joan Robinson, an economist who did an empirical study with that. She discovered that curfews set in place in Washington, D.C. caused more crime to take place in those time frames where people aren't allowed to go outside because the criminal organizations realize there's less collateral damage. No witnesses. Yeah. So, yeah, you're not only are you causing people to be around more people during times when there isn't a curfew, but during the curfew, you're causing crime. You're causing people to you're allowing people to kill each other during those times, or deal drugs, or do whatever is illegal.
Or you're giving specific people that don't care about the law a monopoly on being safe and getting their groceries. I mean,
yeah.
But
then again, the stores are more. They're like, they'll know, the authorities will know if the stores are open. They're out in the open, and they probably won't be open to service people. I mean,
okay,
unless they don't.
Yeah,
care.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'll take that back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of different policies being put in place, but there's another one I think is pretty interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a policy, but something that the government's like been unwilling to give up. It's relative monopoly on healthcare. Like, I mean, with like hospital beds and all that, and they're not like outsourcing that to private agencies who actually have like ability to see where there's need for these things. Mm-hmm. And there's not enough hospital beds to accommodate what the predicted amount of sick people will be in the future. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're continuously, like right now they're calling for more like a socialization of healthcare. Like even Trump is toying with the idea of enacting a Korean era law to like order companies to start manufacturing more healthcare devices and things like that, things of that nature. But that's not the answer at all. The answer is privatizing it more. Like, I mean, even for the time being, like, maybe outsourcing it. Like, I mean, I don't think right now is the right moment to scrap the entire system. But
you know what I think is funny, though?
What?
Is that you and I watched Trump's speech on his response to coronavirus at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is funny is that you were just talking about how I don't know. But anyways, what Trump specified that Walmart parking lots would be used for, for tents and such.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Walmart's the only store open. You're choosing Walmart because their parking lots are large enough. But at the same time, you're also saying that, like, that's like saying, like, okay, we're gonna take half of your parking space, and also everyone, you can only park at Walmart.
Yeah.
So, with that logic...
So you're taking all the healthy people who are trying to get groceries, and you're putting them in close proximity to sick people who are in tents in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know about that, how he was going to do that.
Yeah, it was in the same speech.
Yeah, I don't think I listened to the whole thing.
I mean, it's not just Walmart, it's also... not every location, but it's going to be select locations of, like, CVS, Walgreens, those types of places, which don't have large parking lots to begin with. But so I'm assuming it's going to be Walmart more specifically. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was insane. Like, how does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so
and I think the point to be learned though is that if you let the free market deal with that on its own, you think Walmart is going to do that if the government didn't like force them to? Basically, I mean they're not forcing. Obviously, they would encourage a monopoly, but still, it's like, in a free market, do you really think that someone would, like, hey, let's put quarantine and, all of our medical centers right where everyone needs to get all of their supplies.
Yeah, well, maybe in a completely free market, this would be a good opportunity for Walmart to go into healthcare, because they already opened up to the idea of, they've actually, like, I don't know if they actually opened up a location, but they released plans to to open up like healthcare facilities inside their Walmarts and run by themselves.
Right.
So I mean, this might be a good in for them. But I mean,
at the same time, I mean, I don't want someone with coronavirus inside the store.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, in a free market response, you know, it's not the Walmart parking lot where all the medical centers are going to be. It's going to be in the middle of the woods. You know, it's going to be like a dirt road to get out there, because I don't want anyone near, you know? And that's what companies... I mean, Walmart could still be in charge of that. If Walmart took the initiative, they could buy up an acre of land, you know, in the middle of nowhere, away from society. And put up signs everywhere, like, if you're sick, go here, you know? Because that would be accurate. If Walmart... And Walmart would also not be the only store open.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be amazing, actually. And then... Yeah.
And like, essentially what the government's forcing the private industry to do right now is what happened in Valley Forge, like them putting the toilets near like where they make the food.
Yeah.
If anyone, I don't know how anyone can think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, gotta have open mind, but I mean, at the same time, people don't think about it.
You know what too? Mix in your curfews with Walmart being the only store open and half their parking lot being taken up by coronavirus patients, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have like 5 times the amount of people that are normally at a Walmart there at the same time.
Then imagine if they, like, the fact that Walmart doesn't raise their prices too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
exactly.
Yeah. So tons of people are going, and it'd be even worse if governments start enacting, like, price gouging laws.
And then I'll tell you what incentivizes me to work at Walmart?
Yeah,
You're telling me that thousands of people that are probably all going to get coronavirus at this point are going to be, like, I have to interact with them?
Yeah.
I don't want to work there.
Yeah.
So then what's going to happen? Is the government going to force me to work at Walmart now? Like,
yeah.
or better yet, you know what they'll probably do is force Walmart to pay me more, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah, then then the government forces, like, forces Walmart to pay you more, like, you go off sick leave. So then not only they're going to have no employees, like, there's no incentive at that point to even stay open for essential businesses.
Even if they like, honestly, there's always a price. Like, you know, Walmart could offer me $50 an hour and I'd probably do it, right?
Yeah.
But the point being that if the government, which they would, you know, if it came to this, they would mandate that I work, right, at $50 an hour. But guess what? Walmart isn't allowed to raise its prices. So...
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I think if that the perfect storm came by, and I think at that point Walmart would probably just close or like they would almost have to raise their prices. Yeah. Like there'd be no way for them to even stay open. It'd be so not viable.
Yeah, if there's a book being written about this in 10 years, it'd be called "How Walmart Became a Nationalized Industry."
Yeah,
or you know, or it basically just became like. Walmart is the government.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going to be, like a centralized government location.
But of course, that's what a lot of people think will happen if we abolish government and let the free market come in and provide everything. They think Walmart will just become the government. So,
not really. I mean, if it were the government, you as a consumer and you as an employee would have more say in that quote-unquote government than you would in this government.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, but I think that's the joke, though. That, like, you know, we'll have, like, McNukes and all that, like McDonald's nukes.
Have you seen Anarcho-Capitalism, the movie?
No.
Oh, we have to watch that. It's so funny. McDonald's is, like a mega corporation. Oh, I'm not going to talk about it more on here, but...
Yeah.
It's only like 12 minutes. I recommend it. It's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube? Yeah, I'll probably watch it later. All right. Well, I think we covered almost everything.
This is my favorite episode so far.
Yeah, we don't get to talk about dismal politics and talk about dismal economics.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think to conclude, first, try your private solutions. They will most likely work. Public solutions tend to screw things up a lot more than they...
I'd like to add one more thing. I mean, I guess you could apply this to really any topic. It doesn't have to be this one. But I think we should be encouraging people to not see profit as such a terrible thing.
Yeah, because when people think about profit, they think, oh, evil capitalist, and they're just searching for money. But profit is not And profit in a broad sense is just a subjective phenomenon. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just a benefit you get from doing something. That's all profit is.
Yeah, and I mean, there's, of course, economic principles behind this, but yeah, I mean, Adam Smith's invisible hand,
Yeah.
I mean, every single thing that you do in every voluntary exchange is good. Like, it's yeah, but if companies could just go for profits and, without being checked, everything would be a lot better, but
It would be. All right, so I guess that's a good conclusion. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for joining our fourth episode, and I hope everyone stays safe and practice social distancing and stay away from your older friends. All right, well, thank you for joining us.